Hello and welcome to the Dream Team Professor podcast. In this episode, we're going to look at all the top players to target for game week 24, and then I'm going to give you a quick update on how my best teams are getting on. Before we get started, a little bit of a disclaimer. We're filming this on Wednesday morning, so there are still some matches to be played. Quite important matches as well. So we have Manchester City versus Leipzig this evening, and then tomorrow we'll have the second leg between Barcelona and Manchester United. So these could still have a big impact on what you do with your transfers and your plans, but we're going to get started anyway so that you can start pre-planning for that Friday game week 24. I'm going to start with Liverpool, and how I'm going to do this episode is I'm going to show you the teams that have got two fixtures this game week, and I'm also going to include their first fixture of the next game week, which falls into next month. But if you're bringing in a player now, it's near the end of the month and you're going to want to know how their month is looking next month as well. So we'll start with the first game week of next month also. So we'll start with Liverpool, and they had a disappointing loss last night, 5-2 to Real Madrid. It all started so well with a Darwin Núñez goal and a Salah goal, but they crumbled. Real Madrid were really good, but 5-2 is pretty unacceptable at home in the Champions League. Very disappointing there. Otherwise, we would have been piling on Liverpool, but this has given us something to think about now, because it's going to be very, very, very unlikely that they can turn that second leg around. But we'll get started with them anyway. So, clean sheets against Everton and then clean sheets against Newcastle as well. That started to make us think that Liverpool's defence could be on the up. But yeah, the 5 goals conceded yesterday is a real big dent in that. So they do look like they're going out of the Champions League. All of the defenders got a -4 yesterday, including Trent. And if you're a regular watcher of the podcast, I bought in Trent last week, so it was looking pretty good. He's only 5 million at the minute. I've got him in. I got him in at that price actually. But he got me 15 points in that first fixture against Newcastle. I bought him in for Kieran Trippier. He got the star man and he got an assist as well. Trippier actually did push him quite hard for that star man award as well. But with Trippier going off in the second half, it was Trent's after that. But I still haven't been put off him. He's still in my team, and Palace away, Wolves at home do look like good fixtures still, even after conceding 5. But he is really the only defender from Liverpool that I would be looking at, because he's just got that attacking upside as well. With some of the other defenders, the centre-backs, even Robertson's not really been up to it so much this season. But with Trent, if they do concede, there's still a chance that he could get an assist, or his rating could be fairly high and he might get the rating points. But I just don't see that with some of the other options. You could get a Virgil header maybe, or a Robertson assist, but I just don't think they're as common as Trent's attacking returns. So I think Trent at 5 million is probably the best option from the defence if you still do fancy him after them conceding 5. Palace away, Wolves at home. They're two teams that aren't banging in the goals. Palace's goal scoring isn't great. Wolves have looked a little bit better, but still, it's a home game for Liverpool. I think they should be okay in that one. So I'm happy to stick with Trent at the minute. Salah at 8 million, he's looking like he's really back on form now. He got 10 points last night for a goal and an assist against Real Madrid. And in the previous game, he got an assist against Newcastle as well, 5 points. So 15 points for the game week. He'll be rising in price in the following game week. And I do think he is a really good pick at the minute. I bought him in for Kane on the last game week. Got pretty lucky with that round of transfers, Trippier and Kane out for Trent and Salah. But it really is an argument now between Kane and Salah, I believe. If you have got the front three with Rashford and Haaland in them, I think the real decision is between Kane and Salah. So Kane has got, we'll see Kane's fixtures in a minute, but he has got a good fixture against Sheffield United, potentially in the FA Cup, which he could have over Salah. But Salah is looking really in good form at the minute. So I think Salah's probably the better pick for now. And then I'm going to include someone else as well who he's not for me. I do think he's a decent player, but he is a frustrating player. He got on the score sheet last night. Darwin Núñez, he's 4.9 million. Like I said, not for me at the minute, just because I've got I've got Salah, Haaland and Rashford. If I didn't have them or I couldn't afford them, I would be considering Núñez. But he's got 3 returns in his last 3 games, 2 goals and 1 assist. I do think he is a good option, but like I said, I just can't see past sort of the template now of Rashford, Haaland and one of Kane or Salah. if you're looking for a bit more of a budget pick, you can't afford all three, then by all means, I think Nunes is a good option. But one thing you do just have to be aware of is that he could be a rotation risk now because they've got Firmino back, they've got Gakpo, they've got Jota. So there's quite a lot of options there. And Salah is pretty much the only one, I think, in that Liverpool starting in those striker spots that is nailed and will play every game. Then on to Arsenal, and it's been a rollercoaster week for Arsenal. So coming off the back of losing to Manchester City and some poor results against Brentford and Everton, it looked like the title charge had taken a massive dent, but Arsenal coming back to beat Aston Villa and then City dropping points has now opened it all back up again. I still think City are favourites, but the manner of the win against Aston Villa, it has to really motivate the team and push them on, I think. So I think that will have a real big impact, and maybe even a bigger impact than if Arsenal had just beat Villa 2-0 or something like that. So yeah, the resilience in that game will be something that I think will have Arsenal on the up. Their two fixtures in February are Leicester away and Everton at home. So two fairly good fixtures. I did think that the Leicester game looked like one that could cause us trouble. But actually our record against Leicester previously has been pretty good. So Leicester and Everton. And then in the first game week for March, Arsenal will have Bournemouth at home. And then they'll have their Europa League first leg, which is still to be confirmed. We don't know who we're going to be playing. So it all depends on whether we get a kind draw or not really. But Leicester, Everton, and then the first week we'll have Bournemouth at home, and then Europa League. We don't know if it's home or away yet. But 4 fixtures coming up look pretty good on paper. And Saka has to be the best option for me at the moment. So 4.5 million at the moment. He's got another brilliant goal against Aston Villa. Got the star man as well. He's on 10 goals, 9 assists this season. And I was looking back as well because I was thinking he took a lot of kicks in that Villa game. Took a battering really. And I was starting to think I thought he was going to go off injured. And I was starting to think he does seem like he's playing every minute of every game. So I thought I'd have a look just to see how often he is playing or how often he's playing 90 minutes. And in Arsenal's last 7 games, he started all of them and only came off in 1 game for 17 minutes. So it was around the 70th minute he got subbed off in that one. And that was the cup game against Manchester City. So that was one we probably didn't expect him to start in either. But the point there is that he's absolutely nailed in this Arsenal team. I expect him to probably play the Europa League games as well. But I was saying in the last episode, I think Saka's a great option. I think Ødegaard's a great option. Saka's $1 million and a bit more expensive. But I think Ødegaard is more of a rotation risk than Saka, and he isn't quite as clinical as Saka at the minute. So budget picks, Ødegaard's still great, but Saka has been incredible and he's on great form. So I don't think there's anything wrong with picking Saka, and I'm going to start to think about a way of getting him in my team because I haven't had Saka in my team. I'm not sure if I had him at all. If I have, I didn't have him for many games. But I don't think I've had Saka at all in my best side. Then I mentioned him. I think this is the second best option from Arsenal at the minute. It's Ødegaard at 3.2. So he got an assist and the rating points against Aston Villa. And at 3.2 million, I do still think he's incredible value there. I've got him in a lot of my teams at the minute. He's not a better pick than Saka, but he is still a great option. He does get those attacking returns still. He's the captain, so he pretty much plays every game. But there might start to be a little bit more of rotation now the Europa League is coming back. So talking about rotation risk, just 2 things to consider. You had on the bench, Smith Rowe came back. He didn't play, but he was available and on the bench for Aston Villa. And then you also had Reece Nelson on the bench, who's previously been injured. So we did see earlier in the season, Reece Nelson was playing on the right wing. I think that was in a few of our Europa League games. So Nelson could be the rotation option for Saka. But in the Premier League, I don't think we'll see it unless either Saka's injured or Arsenal have a comfortable lead. And then with Smith Rowe as well, he's been out for such a long time and he keeps getting recurring injuries. I can't see him starting for quite a while either until he is back fully fit. So I don't think those players are going to really be messing with the starting lineup, but we might see them come on. Smith Rowe can obviously play on the left, or he can play in sort of centre attacking midfield, and Nelson will mostly be covering Saka on the right. One thing I do potentially think that if Smith Rowe does get back to full fitness and Gabriel Jesus is back out, I think Smith Rowe could be the cover for Martinelli on the left, which has been Trossard recently. So if Smith Rowe can cover Martinelli on the left, I think that might give an option for Trossard to maybe rotate with Eddie Nketiah, maybe for the Europa League. But that might mean we move Trossard into attack to rotate with Nketiah and Smith Rowe to rotate with Martinelli. It's not something that will impact your picks too much, but it is something to consider. Then coming on to defence, previously I would have said that Saliba and Gabriel were probably the best options in defence from Arsenal. The two centre-backs are nailed. They've both got okay attacking returns as well this season. Gabriel historically is the most clinical or much more of a threat from corners, has more goal returns usually. But I'm going to start backtracking on that one, and it's only because the Europa League is coming back. So with Saliba and Gabriel, the reason why they were the best is because there's just no rotation in those centre-backs positions from Arsenal when they're playing in the Premier League. But with the Europa League coming back, I would now say I would actually favour the picks of Ben White at 4.3 million and Zinchenko at 3.3. Zinchenko's obviously a lot cheaper there, so that does make him quite appealing. He did score that goal against Aston Villa, but that was actually his first Premier League goal. He didn't score a single goal for Manchester City in the Premier League, so that was his first Premier League goal. So he's hardly prolific in front of goal. Obviously, he's a really great player, but he is playing in that sort of left centre midfield role when Arsenal have the ball, and he isn't really getting forward too much normally. But White and Zinchenko, the reason why I think they're better options than Gabriel and Saliba at the moment is because when the Europa League starts up again, we see Arteta bring on substitutes for the fullbacks all the time throughout the Premier League and the cup games. And I just think that with Saliba and Gabriel, there's a chance that it's probably going to be one of them plus a Holding or plus a Kirill, the new signing that we got in January. So I think only one of Saliba and Gabriel would start the Europa League games unless we're like semi-final stages or the final. Then we might go with our starting pair. But throughout the rest of the tournament, I still expect that it'll probably be one of Saliba and Gabriel and then one of the rotation options, which means you could potentially have a player that won't play the midweek game because it's very unlikely that they're going to bring on a new centre-back mid-game. But Arteta does often change the fullbacks. So if you do put White in your team or you do put Zinchenko in your team, they'll play the Premier League game. And then if the Europa League game comes and they're not picked, they go with a Tierney or they go with a Tomiyasu. There's still a very, very good chance that they will come on as a sub and potentially get the clean sheet points. So that's the reason why I think White and Zinchenko, the rest of this month or March going forward, are better options. If you're enjoying the video so far, please do leave a like on it. And if you're not subscribed already, please do subscribe to the channel to get kept up to date with more Sun Dream Team content. On the last episode, we had Sun Dream Team World Cup winner Ash, aka Fergus's apprentice, join us to talk about his journey on winning the World Cup. So we're putting out regular Sun Dream Team content. So if you subscribe to the channel, you'll get kept up to date with that. So moving on to Manchester City, obviously play this evening. So there is still more information that we could have before the Friday transfers. But I'll show you what there is at the minute. So 2 fixtures in February. We've got Bournemouth away and Bristol City away. I accidentally called that Brighton in the one of the last videos. But Bournemouth away, Bristol City away in the FA Cup. Then they have 1 fixture in the first game week of March, which is Newcastle at home. So pretty good fixtures actually, both attacking and defence. But the real problem is the defence is so hard to pick at the minute. One sort of injury or team update that we had yesterday is that Laporte and Kevin De Bruyne are both currently ill and they haven't travelled for the RB Leipzig game, which is taking place tonight. So they're going to be left out. I've got Kevin De Bruyne in my team, which is quite disappointing. He won't be playing that second fixture. And I've actually got Laporte in one of my other teams as well. I went for a City block and I brought Laporte in because I saw he was playing the previous game, which they didn't keep a clean sheet in. So that one is quite frustrating. But starting on the midfield then, one thing to note that Phil Foden is back and started that Nottingham Forest game. So he's back in the mix now, and it's making Mahrez and Grealish a little bit less appealing, and it's more of a rotation risk for them. But Foden's 4.6 million. I wouldn't be picking him yet at the moment. He played against Nottingham Forest, starting that one. Probably needs a little while to get up to full speed. Could have played the ball across the box and gave us all those sweet Haaland points, but scuffed it. Had a few chances, but yeah, it was. I think he's going to take a little while to get back up to speed. So Mahrez and Grealish, I still think are the better options in midfield, but you just have to bear in mind now that Foden is there sort of banging on the door to start, and he probably will rotate with them on both sides. Foden was really rotating with Grealish earlier in the season, and Mahrez was starting every game, but Foden started on the right-hand side, so even Mahrez isn't safe at the minute. But with Mahrez, he has still been a really good pick recently. He's got 11 goals, 5 assists, and he steals the occasional penalty from Haaland as well. So I still have Mahrez in my teams, and I still think he's a really good option. Grealish as well, he's really picked up his form in the last few weeks. He's got 4 returns in his last 5 games. That's 1 goal and 3 assists. So previously he was sort of only getting those rating points, but now he's chipping in with those attacking returns as well. So that's another thing to keep an eye on, and he could still be a good pick. If you want a defender though from Man City, this is where it gets a lot harder, and I'd recommend at the minute just waiting for the lineups to come out. They play at 5:30 on Saturday. Still, some of the other big clubs, they don't start till later on, so you could still maybe, I wouldn't do it, but if you wanted to change out a Man United defender, for example, you could still do that for a Man City defender or one of the other teams. You could still look at the lineup against Bournemouth, decide that you think they're going to get a clean sheet, and bring in those players. But it could go the other way like it did for me in the last game. I looked at the lineup for Nottingham Forest, put in those defenders, and didn't keep a clean sheet, and they're not going to play midweek. So it is just really frustrating at the minute, choosing City defenders. But the best thing you can probably do is just look at the lineup for that Bournemouth game and pick players from that. Obviously, Rico Lewis hasn't been starting, hasn't been getting the minutes anymore. A few players that I did sort of highlight that could be good. Kyle Walker has come back into the mix, and he started 4 games in a row now, Kyle Walker. So 4 games in a row for him. And Diaz, since he started getting back into the team, he's now started 3 games in a row. So Diaz and Walker, they're the 2 that have been starting the most games recently. Akanji previously was someone that was starting a lot of games, but he's not been getting the minutes now. Ake has been fairly good for the minutes, but he did get rested in the last game. So I expect that Ake probably will be playing this Leipzig game this evening, especially now Laporte is out. And obviously I wouldn't be bringing in Laporte now he's ill. But with Kevin De Bruyne and Laporte being ill, if it is just illness, there probably is a chance that they might still make that Bournemouth game. Maybe Kevin De Bruyne, but Laporte, with Laporte, they've got so many options anyway. I can't see them playing Laporte for the Bournemouth game. But with Kevin De Bruyne and them still needing to win the title, I think there could be a chance they try and rush him back. Then Manchester United then. So they've got 2 fixtures in February. They've got Newcastle in the Carabao Cup final, obviously at Wembley. And then they have West Ham at home. And then the fixture, their first fixture in the game week in March, they face Liverpool at home. So potentially a tough fixture against Liverpool there. That Newcastle fixture is looking a bit better now that Pope is suspended. If you've got Rashford or Bruno or some attacking options, you might be licking your lips at that one. But we'll start with Rashford then on that case. So he got 2 goals against Leicester, and he's averaging 9 points per game over his last 5 games. So you really would fancy him to score still a hatful of goals across this Newcastle, West Ham, and even Liverpool fixture. So he's looking brilliant at the minute. One thing I had a look at as well, he was 4.5 million just after the World Cup. He's now at 6.4 million. So, yeah, I'd be interested to know when you got him in your team. I had him straight away from the World Cup. So I've seen that whole rise in value, which is brilliant. But, yeah, if you haven't got him in your team now, that's a real gutting one to have to bring him in at this price. But at 6.4 million, if I didn't have him now, I'd still be trying to get him in my team. Rashford's now only 42 points off of Haaland as well, which that margin was massive at one point. So yeah, he really is tracking him down, and Haaland's just gone a little bit off the boil. So yeah, I'm interested to see whether Rashford can close the gap on Haaland and push him all the way. Do you think there's a chance that he might catch Haaland up before the end of the season? Let us know. But Bruno Fernandes as well, he's another really good option. 2 assists against Leicester. So Rashford got 2 goals, Bruno got 2 assists. And he's had ratings 8 games in a row now, Bruno Fernandes. 11 attacking returns in his last 16 games since the World Cup. Now, if you're a regular listener, I was saying before the World Cup that he was getting those rating points sort of every game, but he was just getting 3 points, 3 points, 3 points. He was getting the odd return, but not very many. But since the World Cup, he's added those, and it just boosts him up. And if he gets an attacking return on top of those rating points, there's a really good chance that he is going to get the star man. Obviously, it depends whether Rashford's banging in sort of 2 goals or getting goals and assists on the same game. It's hard when there's 2 really good players in the team. But with Bruno Fernandes, there's a great chance that you're going to get the star man award as well. So, like I said, 11 attacking returns in 16 since coming back from the World Cup. He only had 5 attacking returns in 20 before that. So he is really on form since the World Cup. And I would tip getting Bruno Fernandes in your team if you didn't have him already. Obviously, Man United still have to play Barcelona on Thursday. I would still bring in Rashford or Bruno, regardless if they end up going out of that Europa League tie against Barcelona. I honestly think they're gonna do it. And I think they're gonna get past Barcelona. But I still think that Rashford and Bruno are perfectly good options, even if they are eliminated from it. Personally, they just start every game. There's no rotation for them, and they're really on good form. So I think Rashford and Bruno, regardless of the result on Thursday, unless they get injured, are really good picks. When it comes to the defence of Man United, though, I think I'd wait and see how they get on against Barcelona and whether they progress in the Europa League before bringing in more Man United defenders, personally. I think Shaw looks like the best option of all of them. His set-piece delivery has been so good recently, and even just his crossing. So I think Shaw is probably the best option. And then Dallow's looked pretty good since he's been back as well, but he does have a bit of rotation with Aaron Wan-Bissaka. So I think Shaw's the best option there, but I would be waiting to see whether they're going to go on to play more games. Because, for example, if they do get eliminated by Barcelona, I think we might start to see someone like Dalot playing every game and not getting rotated so much. Or the same with some of the centre-backs as well, like Varane. Varane might start being more of an option because he will start playing every game Man United have. Then on to Spurs then, and despite feeling like they're having a bad season, they're still up there in fourth at the moment. So they've got 2 fixtures in February. They face Chelsea at home, and then they have Sheffield United away in the FA Cup. And then they double in the first game week of March, where they face Wolves away, and then they have the second leg against AC Milan. So in terms of fixture volume, it's looking good for Spurs. But their form has been on and off. So they haven't, looking at that Chelsea fixture first, I had a look back at the head-to-heads with Chelsea, mostly just because I wanted to see how Kane does against them. Kane's one of these players that he can score in pretty much every game, but he does have some of these big clubs that he does score goals against, like Arsenal, for example. He does seem to have a good time against Arsenal usually. But when I looked back, I was surprised to see that Spurs haven't won once in their last 5 games against Chelsea. And Harry Kane has only scored 1 in his last 5 against them too. So that kind of isn't looking too good. But obviously Kane is Kane, and he can score against any of the big sides. He's on penalties. He's still a great option. Just because I've been tipping Salah, I still think Kane is a really good option. But at 8 million, he does have that poor record against Chelsea. And then they have that game against Sheffield United in the FA Cup. And I've been looking at that as a sort of, in my head, the first thing you think is they're not a Premier League side. There's a good potential that Kane scores a load of goals against them. But I went and had a look at the Championship, and Sheffield United are second at the minute, and they're having pretty good seasons. So it might not be as easy of a game as it looks on paper. But one thing I did see, that Sheffield United, in their last 2 games, have conceded 6 goals. So although they are doing well, they are conceding goals, and that could play into Kane's hands. if you do have Kane already, I wouldn't be against seeing out this next run of fixtures. Um, so Chelsea, Sheffield United, then they face Wolves and AC Milan, with that AC Milan one being a must-win to try and progress. I've added Son to the list as well at 5 million. He did score in the last game against West Ham, but personally, I won't be putting him in. Around that 5 million mark, if that was the budget that I had to play with, I think I'd probably be choosing Darwin Núñez over Son at the moment. Then on to Leicester then. So I'm featuring them again. They were in it last week as well, but two fixtures in February. They've got two home fixtures. So Arsenal at home and Blackburn at home. And then the first fixture they have in March is Southampton away. So Southampton did get that good result against Chelsea, but their defence has been fairly poor this season. So that is one that stood out to me because Southampton's defence has been a bit suspect, and Leicester's best asset at the minute is their attack. So I thought that one stood out a little bit as well. Obviously, that Arsenal game is going to be really difficult, and their record hasn't been very good against Arsenal. But last time they played Arsenal, in a 4-2 loss, James Maddison was on the score sheet. So I'm going to tip him again. 5.8 million. He's got 9 goals and 5 assists this season. 5.8 million still is really expensive. But if you are chasing, or you've got some transfers left and you're happy to maybe make this one now and reverse it in the next month if it doesn't work out, I still do think there could be a good opportunity for some points here. So he obviously scored in the last time out against Arsenal in that 4-2 loss. And then Blackburn, they faced them. He did start in the last FA Cup game they played against Walsall, Maddison. So there's potential here that he does actually start all 3 games, and I think he will. Arsenal, Blackburn, Southampton. So Blackburn, he could be on the goals in that one. And then Southampton away, I still think that Southampton can. And Southampton away, I still think there's good opportunity for Maddison and Leicester to score some goals in that one. Obviously, Leicester had a poor result in the last game against Manchester United, but Manchester United really are on good form at the minute. And Blackburn and Southampton aren't going to be putting up the same sort of performance that Manchester United did. So I still think Maddison is a real good option. There are a few other punts there, like Iheanacho or Barnes, but personally, I think I'd only be considering Maddison, and I wouldn't be going near the defence after the performance they put in against Manchester United. Then on to Chelsea, and I'm reluctantly putting these in the video. We've got one fixture left in February, so all the other teams had 2. Chelsea only have the 1, which is against Tottenham away as well. So it does look like it's a tough fixture on paper, but Chelsea's record has been pretty good against Spurs recently. But still, with only the 1 fixture, there's probably going to be better options from the previous teams. But the reason I'm including Chelsea in this one is because they do have 2 fixtures in the first game week of March. They have Leeds and then they have Borussia Dortmund, both at home. But here are some stats that don't look good when it comes to bringing in Chelsea players. So they've got back-to-back losses now and no wins in their last 5 games. So if you are bringing in Chelsea players, you are betting against the form, really. And the last time that they scored more than 1 goal was against Bournemouth back in December, at the end of December. So the goals aren't flowing for Chelsea at the minute. And I think that is really off-putting when it comes to considering attacking options and even the midfield options. João Felix was looking pretty good. Obviously, Mudrik's just come in but has struggled a bit. I've got quite a few new signings. Sterling's back playing. Havertz is getting the chances, but he's not putting them away. So with them only scoring sort of 1 goal max since December, I wouldn't be going near any of the midfielders or attackers at the moment. But on the other side of that, although the form has been bad, they've not conceded more than 1 goal in their last 6 games. 3 of those 6 games were clean sheets. It wasn't the last 3, but 3 clean sheets in their last 6. They might be getting there. So they're stopping a ton of goals going in, but they're not scoring a ton of goals themselves. So they're having really tight games, which means there could be potential for clean sheet points. And that's why the only person I'm going to tip at the moment is Reece James. He was left out of the squad for that last game, which was really quite disappointing. It was a bit surprising, really, as well, because in the 3 fixtures they had, he's just come back from injury. And you would have probably thought that he'd maybe start one, come on as a sub in another, or get 60 minutes, and then have some role in the next one. But instead, they gave him 90 minutes, and then didn't even put him in the squad. Um, we thought that he might have got a recurring injury again, but Potter said, no, we don't have any injuries. We're just using this as a chance to rest a few players who have a bit of fatigue. So they didn't put him in the squad at all for that Southampton game, and then they lost 1-0. So yeah, not great. Potter's ideas probably have been questioned a little bit there, but I still think Reece James, I'm not totally against getting him in early if you did want him for March. I had a look back in the previous fixtures, and he had scored recently against against Tottenham, but yeah, I think maybe I'd prefer to go maybe with a Trent who's got a few more fixtures at the moment. He is a really exciting player, someone that can get goals and assists. It's just Chelsea who are the question mark at the minute. If Chelsea were playing really, really well, good attacking football, I definitely would be putting him straight in my team. But I think I'm just going to wait a little bit longer just to see. They're also losing in that first leg against Borussia Dortmund. So if they go out of that one, it's going to make them look even less appealing. So I think I'm going to shelve Reece James at the moment. But he is someone that I really have been wanting to own recently. Right, on to my team updates then. And like I said, this is being filmed on Wednesday morning after the Liverpool game. So I still have got a few players to play from Manchester City and Man United. But I've got 80 points for the game week, which has been really good so far. Total points is 1,611. And my overall rank has jumped quite a bit from 1.8k to 1.1k. So I really am closing in on that 1k target that I set myself. I've got David De Gea in goal. He got me 8 points against Leicester and some really good saves in that game, actually. And then obviously he plays Barcelona at home on Thursday, which I'm not expecting too much from at the minute. Trent Alexander-Arnold, yeah, he's finished up on 11 points. He got me 15 against Newcastle, but I was just watching those points tick down last night. It was like the ticker on Pointless. The score was just keep lowering down to 11, so happy for it to stay there. I would have taken 11 points if you offered it to me at the start. Shaw, he got 8 points, plays Barcelona on Thursday. Ake, that one was really disappointing actually, and I'm going to say the choice was between Ake and Trippier to remove for Trent. And obviously Ake has more fixtures than Trippier, but I do think Trippier has better scoring potential. So I was sticking with Ake, and in my head I was going to take Trippier out and bring Trent in. But I did just wait, and I thought if I leave Ake in there and he doesn't play against Forest, I could actually, because Man City played earlier, I could actually take Ake out and then bring Trent in for Ake after the game finished. So I was keeping an eye on that one. But Ake came on in like the 89th minute or something like that. So he came on with about a minute to play and got me the no points, so which meant I had to do Trippier. He hopefully will play against RB Leipzig. Now Laporte is confirmed out, so hopefully they can get a clean sheet in that one. But their defensive record hasn't been great lately. Bruno Fernandes got me 12 points against Leicester. He's been absolutely brilliant, so happy to keep him at the minute, and he could still return points against Barcelona. I think he'll definitely get the rating points, but if he can get any attacking returns, that'd be brilliant. De Bruyne, he finished up with 8 points and the star man against Nottingham Forest in a game that was 1-1 and he didn't get any attacking returns. That's a pretty good result actually from De Bruyne, so happy with that. But he is going to miss this RB Leipzig game. I'm going to be sticking with Kevin De Bruyne. If it's illness, it does seem like there's a lot of colds and stuff going around, so I imagine he should be back for that Bournemouth game. If he's not back for that Bournemouth game, maybe I will consider changing him to someone. But I'll wait and see before I do anything on that one. Mahrez, disappointing that he didn't get any minutes at all against Forest, but at least we know he's going to definitely be fresh back starting for this RB Leipzig game, unless there's anything mental going on. And then Ødegaard, so he got me 5 points. He got an assist in that Aston Villa game and the rating points. So again, happy with how he ticks along. He's a little bit in Saka's shadow in terms of Dream Team points. So I will keep an eye on him, and there is a potential that I could maybe bring Saka in for Odegaard. So that is one that I keep an eye on, but it will mean using a lot of my budget that I have left, and I'm kind of keeping that budget in case I need to bring Trippier back in for Trent. So that's going to be a consideration. And up front, I've got Rashford, 13 points. Again, he's been brilliant. I don't really have to add anything more to him. But bringing Salah in for Kane as well has been a real good move this week. So 15 points, a bit of a mixed week for Liverpool. But in terms of Salah and Dream Team, 15 points is a brilliant return. And Haaland with a blank, but hopefully he can get something against Leipzig. So yeah, pretty good week in all 80 points. I'm really happy with that. I've got 2 transfers left out of 5. The team value is 61.9 million with 2.9 million in the bank. So the moves I did were Trippier to Trent and Kane to Salah last week. And that combo, Salah and Trent, got me 26 points. If I had kept Kane and Trippier, that would have only got me 7 points. So that's a pretty good move when it comes to Dream Team. But obviously, that's just 1 week. It has got to carry on throughout the month. So yeah, hopefully we can see a few more points from Trent and Salah. In terms of transfer plans, like I said, I'll keep an eye on Kevin De Bruyne, whether he's back for that Bournemouth game. If he's not, I may consider moving him on with one of the 2 transfers that I have left. But it concerns me a little bit because De Bruyne is a player that I am going to want long term, and I can't imagine this illness is going to be long term. Then Saka is the only other person that I'd be looking to bring in potentially with the extra money. I could bring him in for Odegaard in a straight swap, and that could be a real good move actually. But yeah, like I said, it would just mean using all the money I have left in the bank. And if I do want Trippier back, that means I'm probably going to have to do it in 2 moves, which isn't great. The only other thing I'm keeping an eye on is Ake and the rotation. It is getting annoying, but a lot of teams do have City players in them, and it is good to have one just in case. The fixtures are really good, so if they do keep a string of clean sheets, I think it is quite good just to have at least one City defender at the moment. Right, then I'll show you my second team then. I've been doing this along the way as well. So I'll show you my best team and my second team. This one really was a poor week. So 46 points for the game week, almost half as many as my previous team. The total points is 1,527. And the overall rank has plummeted from 5.3k to 6.1k. And these 2 teams were in a fairly similar position not so long ago. So it shows that you can really go both ways, really. So I tried to keep these 2 separate. They were getting a bit similar. So I've really gone out there and made this team quite a bit different to my last team, and obviously quite a bit worse than my other team. So De Gea in goal, 8 points. And the thinking with this one is Man City did have the really good fixtures, so I was going to try and target a City block. Obviously, it was a risk because City's defence hasn't been great lately, but I did think the fixtures looked really good. I definitely expected to get clean sheets against Forest away. So initially in this team, I had Trippier and Schär to start the week from Newcastle. Because they were playing a lot less fixtures, I took them out for Walker and Diaz, who were starting. I got to see the lineup, so I knew that Walker and Diaz were starting already. And then I had Ake and Rico Lewis. Now, Rico Lewis hadn't been playing any games, for the last 2 fixtures, I believe. So I took Rico Lewis out for Laporte, who is now confirmed not travelling to Leipzig, so he's not going to get me any points this week at all. So that was a pretty terrible move. And Ake didn't feature. Well, he did feature for 1 minute to come on and get the no points. So yeah, that defence is looking bleak. Laporte, Walker, Diaz, Ake, no points for any of them. I may have a decision to make with Laporte. I can't do anything before Leipzig, but maybe I take him out before Bournemouth. But hopefully they can get a clean sheet against Leipzig, and that score will look quite a bit better. Then in midfield, I've got De Bruyne, Mahrez, Bruno, so fairly familiar to the last one. De Bruyne got me 8 points, but he's not going to play in midweek. Probably might still get a rise. Mahrez hopefully will play, and then Bruno still to play against Barcelona as well. So the midfield's okay. Up front, Haaland, no points. I kept Kane in this team to keep it separate from the last team, which has Salah. So he only got me to 5 points, which is quite a lot less than Salah did. And then I've got Rashford up front. I just don't think you can go without Rashford at the minute. So 13 points from him. So yeah, going for that City block in this team hasn't quite worked out. I'm going to stick with it now. I'm too far in with this City block, so I'm going to stick with this City block and see how we go. Hopefully get some clean sheet points. The only things I might tweak, I've got 2 transfers left, so whether or not I use those last 2 to just make sure that I have got the City starting defenders at the time. Does seem a bit of a waste of transfers, but chasing those clean sheet points. I did consider, do I just go all in and take De Gea out for Ederson, because Ederson is pretty much nailed every game, but I do think Ederson probably will miss that Bristol City game, and De Gea's fixtures are pretty good, and he has more opportunities to get the rating points than Ederson because he makes more saves. So I think I'll keep De Gea. I'll keep the City block, or defensive block at least. But yeah, it isn't looking good, and I don't see this one going very well. That is everything for this episode. So all the best in the remainder of this game week. And if you have any questions going into game week 24, happy to answer them in the comments below. And if you're not subscribed already, please do like this video and subscribe for more Sun Dream Team content. And check out the next video that I have lined up here, where we had Sun Dream Team World Cup winner Ash, aka Fergie's apprentice, join us for a quick interview, giving us an insight into his World Cup win. Thank you for watching, and we will see you on the next episode. Goodbye.